Hi, I'm Miss Becky from West Chase Music School, and today I'm going to be teaching how to compose a 12-bar blues melody. Alright, so if you are taking piano classes right now, and you're using the Alfred piano book, that's this one right here, this book covers the blues starting on page 107. So if you have the book and you want to open to 107, you can do that. If you don't have the book, that's alright, you don't need it. Because I will tell you everything you need to know. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to be writing this example using an F major blues scale. And the reason I'm using the key of F is because of one of my students who's currently working on the same type of song using a blues scale and an F major. So shout out to Jordan. Yeah. Alright, so there's a couple things we want to do. First, grab a blank piece of paper so you can write down all of the information you're going to need for basically the puzzle pieces of your melody. And then you're also going to need blank staff paper. So if you don't have a book like this, you can go to blanksheetmusic.net and print it for free. That's blanksheetmusic.net. I definitely used that a lot when I was in college because we love free staff paper. It's good stuff. Alright, so go ahead and grab your stuff. When you're ready, I'm going to start with writing down these notes up here. Don't worry about these numbers yet. Just write down these letters, and those are going to be your blues scale. Those are the notes you're going to use for your melody, okay? So F, A flat, B flat, C flat, which is N harmonic to B natural, C, E flat, and then back to F, okay? If you look up here, these are called scale degree numbers. This little caret on top, that's what tells us it's a scale degree number. These are just telling you what degree of the scale it is. So we have 1, which obviously, scale degree numbers. Anyway, 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, flat 7, and then back to 1. So if you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that to write everything down. Yeah, do that. Okay, now these flats in front of these notes, these 3 notes are what we call blue notes. So in a normal major scale, there's not going to be a flat in front of your 3, so we would have an A natural. There's no flat on 5, so we'd have a C natural. This one has both. And there's no flat on 7, so we'd have E natural. And that would be, so we would still have B flat. B flat is in our key signature for F major. And this particular blues scale is a little weird because we have 2 different versions of scale degree 5. You may want to note also that blues scales come in a bunch of different styles, you could say. Some of them are pentatonic, so they're made up of only 5 notes. This one is hexatonic, meaning it has 6 notes, and that's 6 not including this note because we're not going to count it twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hexatonic. Then there's heptatonic, which is 7. And I don't think we go past 7. No, we do. There's nonotonics, which is 9. So there's a lot of different versions of the blues scale. But the most important thing to know that every blues scale is going to have your blue notes, which are your flat 3, your flat 5, and your flat 7. And they're always going to be there. Okay. And those are the notes you're going to use to write your harmony. No, your melody. Those are your melody notes, okay? Now, we also want to add a harmony. We can do that with just a bunch of whole notes in our left hand. Really, it's up to you. Yeah, so go ahead and on your paper, you want to write these down as well. So we're going to use our 1 chord, which uses the notes F, A, C, and sometimes E flat. In jazz, you can add sevenths on pretty much any chord. So the 7th for our 1 chord is going to be E flat, so use that as you want to, or don't use it, it's up to you. Then we need our 4 chord, which is B flat, D, and F, and A flat to make it a 7th chord, which is again optional. And then with our 5 chord, we always want to do 5, 7, so we are going to include that B flat, C, E, and G, so we have that 7th all the time. In your lessons, you may have learned that we like 5, 7 to lead to 1 a lot of the time, because when you add that 7th, it strengthens the desire to resolve. So we when we do get back to 1, we feel a sense of closure, so we feel, or like rest. We can end the piece. We made it back to 1. The dissonance has resolved. We like that. Although, if dissonance resolving is something that you care a lot about, it doesn't happen very much in the jazz and the blues. Jazz and blues really leans into dissonance and embraces it, and it's great. Alright, so you've got those chords. We'll use those notes for your harmony. And also, you should notice that the notes in the harmony, so here we have an A, here we have an A flat, so your harmony notes and your melody notes are not always going to be the same. Sometimes we're going to have an A flat against an A natural, so we're going to have some really crunchy, dissonant sounds. Same thing with E flat, E natural, same thing. So this is an E flat in our melody, but we only have an E flat, or we have an E natural in our 5 chord. We do have an E flat if you make a 7th chord on your 1, and also the A flat is for the 7th chord on the 4. So there are ways you can bring in those notes, but as you're writing, as you're playing through your composition, if you do hear that really crunchy, dissonant sound, it's supposed to be there. That's part of what makes the blues sound like the blues. So don't be afraid of it, embrace it. Okay. Okay, last thing I want you to write down before we get to our piece is the formula for the blues. So we know it's going to be 12 measures long, and we're going to use those 3 chords. So this is just how many measures of each chord we're going to have. So the first 4 measures are all on 1, then we have 2 measures on 4, 2 measures on 1 again, 1 measure, 5, 7, 1 measure on 4, and then back to 1 for our last 2 measures. So make sure you get all of that written down. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, and if you have the Alfred book, that's on page 107. It has the formula right there for you. So you can just do that if you don't feel like writing it down, and you have the book. It's up to you. Okay. So once you have all of those things written down, you've got all the puzzle pieces you need to get started. So now grab your staff paper, and you want to set up your page. So the way I've set it up, I have my grand staff, so my treble and bass clef, for 3 lines. Then I'm going to make sure I have my key signature, so I've got my B flat on both. And looks like when I set this up, I forgot my time signature, so I'm going to add that now. I'm going to use 4/4. 4/4 is pretty standard. You can use any or any time signature that you want, but if you want to follow along with this example and make it similar to what I'm going to do, use 4/4. It's up to you. Okay, so now I've got my time signature. I like to write it on every single line because then it's better for performers, you know? You don't have to think back to the very beginning of the piece, especially if it's a long piece. So get in the habit of writing it on every line. Okay. Next, you want to write lines so you have 4 measures on each line. So 4 times 3 equals 12. You have a total of 12 measures, and it's divided 4 measures per line. Okay? And then once you've done that, I went ahead and wrote in all of my chord symbols, so I know exactly what chord I'm writing for. I don't need to refer quite as much to like my formula and stuff. I've already got it on my paper. So I've got our tonic for 4 measures, then it changes. Ooh, I wrote the 4 in the wrong spot. This is why we use pencil, so we can erase. Alright, so that goes below the bass clef. So there we go. We got 4 for 2 measures, then we change to 1, 5, 7 for 1, 4 for 1, and then back to our tonic. Okay? So once you've got that, you're all set up and we're ready to go. Okay. And you can also go ahead and write in your double bar line at the end. Yeah. Okay. So, just so you can hear it, let me play you the whole blues scale. And let me put it in front of me so I make sure I get all the notes. So these are the notes you're going to be playing. That was wrong. Okay, one more time. Okay, and the chords underneath that, we have our 1 chord, 4, 5, 7, 1. Just so you can get that in your head. Very good. You may hear my dogs running around like maniacs in the background. If you do, I'm sorry. I cannot stop them. They're insane. Okay. Great. So now that we're set up, let's get writing, composing. All right. So when we start writing a melody, what we want to do is we want to establish the key, and we want to come up with some sort of like either rhythm or what we would call a motive or theme that can come back later on in the piece. Okay, so how do we establish the key? Well, first of all, it's going to start with a tonic chord in your left hand, so that's already going to help you know, okay, that's our home chord. That makes sense. So your ear is already going to be kind of oriented with that. But in our melody, you should start the very first note with your scale degree 1 or your scale degree 5. So in this case, that's F or C. Dealer's choice. So first note, F or C, and you probably, the whole time we're writing over our tonic chord, so our 1 chord, a good way to help your ear stay kind of centered on that, like F is your root, F is the root of the tonic chord, make sure you have an F in every measure. It doesn't have to be the whole measure, it doesn't have to only be on strong beats, so it doesn't have to be on beat 1 of every measure, but try to put an F in every measure, of at least for the first 4 measures while we're writing over our tonic. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, so I'm going to write my first phrase, so my first 4 measures is what I'm going to do first. Also, you probably want to end your first 4 measures on your tonic note. So make the last note of the phrase end on F. So you're going to start on F or C, end on F. Okay? Just write your first 4 measures. I, of course, have already written the melody while I was planning this video, because if I did it for you live, this video would last a long time. Yeah, so I'm going to just go ahead and write down my whole melody, and then I'm going to talk you through exactly what I did. Okay, so I'm starting with F, and I really want to use every note of the blues scale. You don't have to use every note in the scale if you don't want to, but you can if you do. I thought that would be a good idea, so I'm going to. And then you don't have to limit the notes in your melody to notes that are also in the chord. Any notes really can go over the harmony as long as you have that, like F, like there's at least 1 or 2 notes every couple measures, or really every measure, at least 1 note that's a note that's in the chord. That's really all that matters. It doesn't have to be every single note. It doesn't have to always be on the strong beat, which is beat 1. It's really up to you. So get creative with it. And also, don't just like write about this like by thinking about it or trying to put a puzzle together without hearing it. So sit down at your piano or pick up your guitar, your ukulele, whatever you're going to write with, or whatever instrument you're going to write for, and play it out. You want to listen to it, you want to play around, find something that actually feels right for you. I definitely needed a few tries before I came up with something that I didn't hate. And do remember, we're all our own worst critic, so be kind to yourself. If it takes you a few tries to find something you like, that's okay. Yeah. Alright, so this is what my melody looks like. Okay, so I've got, there we go. My F is my starting note, and my F is also my ending note, and then I've got a bunch of notes from the blues scale in between. So let me play this for you so you can see what that sounds like. Hear what that sounds like. And then I'll show you one more time. Okay, I'll do that one more time. I'll count off this time so you can maybe get a better sense of the rhythm. 1, 2, ready, go. So let's talk about some of the things that I'm doing. So first of all, you may have heard my 8th note. Well, here, take a look at it one more time. If you need to pause it to get a really good look at what I've written, go ahead and do that. If not, I'm going to not hold it this whole time. Fair warning. So the first thing I'm doing, I've got a couple 8th notes. If you haven't gotten far enough in your learning of music that you've done eighth notes yet, don't worry about them. Use note values that you feel really comfortable with. If that's only going to be half notes and quarter notes, just use half notes and quarter notes. If you know how to use ties, if you know how to use res, if you know how to use eighth notes, add them. But don't use anything that you're not comfortable with yet. Okay, so my eighth notes, I'm doing something that's called swung eighth notes. If you've never played jazz music yet, the swung eighth note is, it's not in every jazz song, but it is very common. And basically all it is we're making our eighth notes uneven. So one is long and one is short. So we're going long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. Okay, so if you're playing yours and you don't know swung eighth notes yet, don't worry about it. But that's something that is stylistic, so if it's something you do know, go ahead and add it if you want. Something else I did, at the end here, I've got this eighth rest. So what I'm creating here is called syncopation. And that is something else that's going to be really common in jazz and blues music. Basically what it's doing is it's emphasizing a beat other than the strong beat. So in this case, we've got a rest on one and we're coming in on the and. So that's an off beat. No. So it's almost like a little hiccup. And it kind of makes it a little more, it's just a little offset. For me, it makes it feel a little more groovy. I don't know. I like it. So those are two elements that are really common in jazz music. So if you want to try and add something like that, so a swung eighth note, and maybe an eighth rest on some strong beats to make a syncopated rhythm, go ahead and try that. Yeah, that's fun. That's one suggestion for a melody. Okay. So what comes next? All right. So something else that's important. So this is going to have 3 4-measure phrases. So and every phrase is going to end with 2 measures on our tonic chord. So we have 1 for 2 measures, 1 for 2 measures. So the first thing I'm going to do, now that I've got a melody written, is take the same melody from my last 2 measures and write them for every pair of 1 chords. Every pair of measures over a 1 chord. And you may be wondering, why am I going to do that? Well, when we're writing music, we want to create something that's called coherence. What coherence is, basically what it means is when you're listening to the song from beginning to end, you can tell that you're listening to the same song. So it's just like in pop music, if you hear a song that has like a hook or a chorus, the chorus comes back, or like you hear the same line repeated a bunch of times throughout the song, all of that is creating coherence. It's making it feel like the same song. It's relating other parts of the song to like early parts of the song to later parts of the song. So that's something we want to do now, and it's easy to do that by just taking this little end of the phrase that I already wrote and plugging it in for the last 2 phrases of the song. And I would recommend doing that for you as well. Okay, almost done. I'm trying to write very neatly so that you guys can read it, but this is not how I usually write music. I'm usually very sloppy. Okay, so now I've got the last 2 measures of every single phrase is already done. Now I just need to fill in the rest of it. Okay, so how am I going to do that? Alright, well first off, now we're going to our next harmony, which is our 4 chord. So let's review. Our 4 chord, we have a B flat, D, and F, and sometimes A flat in our harmony. And you may also notice that your B flat chord has an F in it, and your tonic has an F in it. So that means that our common tone, so the common note between those 2 chords, it's going to be your F. Okay, well, and we also started the piece on F. Well, I started mine on F. I don't know if you started yours on F, but I started mine on F. So I think, since that's also a common note in my 4 chord, I'm going to go ahead and start with that again. And something else I can do, since I have a distinct rhythm, so I'm going eighth, eighth, quarter, 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 so 1 and 2, 3, 4. I'm going to use that same rhythm in my next phrase. So that's going to kind of tie my ear back to the beginning, but I'm going to change the notes. I'm going to start with the same first note, but then I'm going to use different notes in the scale to change it up. So the rhythm is what's connecting me to the beginning, but the notes are going to change. All right, so this is what I came up with on my own before I was recording this video. Okay, so that's what I got. So I started off okay, and now I'm gonna go, but then what? So now I just need to fill in 3 more beats before I get to what we already did. So you can do something that's gonna be the same rhythm. I think I want to change it up just a little bit. So now instead of doing the 8th notes on beat 4, I'm going to put them on the next one. Oops. Also, I think I said this already, but always use a pencil because you will make mistakes and need to erase things. Okay, so here's what I got. That's what it looks like. And this is what that line sounds like. So what do I have so far from the very beginning? Just so you can hear it. Okay. So I've used the same rhythm from the opening, but I've changed it up for the second measure, and I've changed the notes. Yes, to go with the harmony. And again, just to repeat, you don't need to use every single note in the harmony only. You can always use notes that are outside of the harmony, but make sure you've got at least one note that's the root of the harmony. So our 4 chord, the root of our 4 chord is our B flat. So make sure you've got a B flat in both of your 4 measures. Your measures over the 4 chord. Okay, so I've got a B flat right there, and another one right there. So I've got B flat in both measures. It's a mirror, so I'm struggling with that. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I've got. Okay, so now going into the very last phrase. For this one, okay, well, so the first 2 phrases, the chord lasted for 2 full measures, so I didn't need to think about the harmony changing any faster than that. When we go into the last phrase, the harmony changes after just 1 measure. So I think I want to do something totally different to finish off my song. But I still, like, something totally different, at least from the way these other 2 phrases started, but something that still references something I've already done in the piece. So with my thought process, something I've already used that's distinctive in the blues is syncopation, but I've only used it at the end of those phrases. So I thought maybe a way to kind of further develop that idea is to bring it into my 5/7 chord measure. So I'm just going to use the root of the 5 chord, which is C. C. Then I'm going to add an 8th rest. Okay, I will show you what I'm doing in just a minute. I'm also using ties. I hope you know what ties are. That would help. Okay, and I think also, so I'm going to use that syncopation kind of idea for my 5/7 measure and my 4 measure. So I'm going to treat them both as almost like micro phrases that are 1 measure long, and they're going to be almost like a call and response where they're going to be the same rhythm in both measures, but with different notes. That's a quarter note. Okay, So here's what that looks like. So you can see my 8th rest. That's my syncopation. Okay, so I went C, C, E flat, F, and then we got F, F, C, B flat, and then we're back to our normal kind of almost refrain that I used before. So here's what that's gonna sound like. So we're gonna go. So that's my last phrase. So let me play my whole melody for you, and you should be able to hear how certain elements come back. You'll hear probably the biggest thing that I'm using isn't going to be an interval pattern that's coming back, except for at the very end where it's exactly the same thing for 2 measures of every line. But other than that, I'm using a rhythmic idea to create coherence. So rhythm can be a really good way to make everything go together. Let me try that one more time for you. I'm thinking about too many things at once. Okay, one more time. I actually like it. I've never written a 12-bar blues before. I've just, done a lot of analysis and played some of them, of course. So that was really a fun exercise for me. So that's my melody. But you're probably not going to want to stop with just the melody. So there's a couple things you can add. First off, a harmony. So for me, I probably would just play this with chords. So I'm just going to play them with block chords written out. Let me write out a couple of them just so you can see the position for them. F, B flat, D, and then here we need an E, a B flat, and a C. Okay, so you're going to play, you've got your root position, 1 chord, and then this one has your F on the bottom for your B flat chord, and then your 5-7 like that. So if you need to pause it and write that down, go ahead and do that. And then this is what those chords are going to sound like in that position. So we're going to go 1, 4, and then back to 1, 5, 7, 4, 1. Okay, so now my whole song, just with whole notes below it. This will probably take me 2 tries. Bear with me. Okay. Probably could have played the chord more than once, but I didn't. So I just wrote this like yesterday, so I don't know it very well, so I probably need to practice it a little bit more. But when you're writing it, those are your chords. You can do anything you want with the bass line. So if you're working through the Alfred book, you'll play through a bunch of different types of bass lines. You can do one that's like you just play the root or the lowest note in the chord, and then you play the 3rd and the 5th kind of thing. You can change up the rhythm, so you're going thing. Really anything you want. You can play half notes, you could just play straight quarter notes. I actually like mine with straight quarter notes, but I probably haven't practiced it enough to play it well. Yeah. And then I kind of lose it because I'm doing too many things at once. But you can do it with straight quarter notes, so you can come up with anything that fits in with your melody. It's really up to you. So get creative with your bass lines if you want, or if you're more interested in just writing a melody, just write a melody. You know, it's your music, so you do whatever you want. All right. And then something else that you can do is you can add words. Let me just take a sip of water. So a lot of blues music is written to kind of express like a melancholy type of emotion. It's rooted in like African spirituals, and then it came to America because of slavery, and so it's used to express a lot of that kind of melancholic, sometimes sadder tone. It doesn't have to be sad. It can be like, for example, you've probably seen the movie The Grinch. The song "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" is kind of bluesy. It uses a swung eighth rhythm. Da 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 da. It's that long short rhythm. So that's like a swung song. It's like a jazzy song. So that one's like about a villain. I wouldn't call it a melancholy tone. So really you can come up with any kind of tone you want. That one's a little bit silly, but it's also kind of gritty. So it's up to you. So I came up with the most ridiculous thing I could think of. I decided to so first off, I decided to name my song, and my song is called Brownie's Blues. Brownie is my dog, and his life is very difficult because he wants to be in my lap 100% of the time. So I just wrote some words to go with the first line of my tune. So a good rule of thumb when you're trying to add lyrics, he's sitting on the floor at my feet waiting for me to pick him up. And he heard his name, so now he's getting up, and he's gonna whine. Anyway, a rule of thumb for if you're adding words, 1 syllable per note. Okay? So, if I play my tune, let me look at the one where I wrote the words in. Brownie's life is hard because he can't be in my lap. It's so ridiculous. But, so for example, when I got to because, so because is a 2-syllable word, so it needs 2 notes. Because, okay, so Brownie's life is hard because he can't be in my lap. Then it gets low. You go that high, then it's hard to sing that low. Anyway, so if you're going to write in words, 1 note per syllable. Okay? And that's about it. So, if you stuck around this long, I guess I could show you Brownie since he wants to be shown. Come here, baby. Come here. Come here. Oh. This is the brown one. I have 2 dogs. This one is Brownie. He wants to be in my lap. He is a Chiweenie with the giant ears. So he's a Dachshund Chihuahua mix. He's like 5 years old. Yeah. So anyway, now that you've met Brownie and you've heard my ridiculous line, I only wrote 1 line, because I'm not really planning on singing this song. I'm just planning on petting Brownie. Let me just make sure. I think that was everything I wanted to tell you. So, that's it. So let's just review really quick. Rhythm is a great way to create coherence in your piece. You don't have to use only chord tones in your melody. You can use every note of the blues scale. And you're allowed to have dissonance. Those crunchy intervals. They're supposed to be there. And that's what makes the blues. So I hope you have fun. You can, if you do this exercise, he's going to fall off my lap. I'm very short, so I have a hard time holding Brownie. If you do the exercise, take a picture of it, post it in the comments below if you have questions, or if you want to know more. I'd love to hear from you, and make some music together. So let us know, and have a great day. Bye-bye. Say bye, Brownie. He doesn't say bye.